Greetings, my name is My Face is Edible, or Edible if you want to call me that. This is my little explanation on how my bouncing physics work. First, let's look into the actual how things work. First, but let me mention one first problem. The fact that this is all in the this should not be this here, and this, yeah, these two should not, like these, I believe it's this is should, no, okay, what shouldn't be in here is 6 to 3. They should be in the beginning, like as soon as the world starts, they're set to this, because that's how it should be. Like, they should be set to that. All the rest are fine, just 3 to 6 need to be, as soon as like the game starts, set them, because they're basically, because they're in there and they're not set as soon as the world starts, this will happen. That's not how it's meant to work. This is how it's meant to work. That was my own fault. I was just, my excuse is I was drunk while I made this bouncing physics. So, be ready for flaws. I'm not going to, the code is going to be of this version with the flaws because they're not hard to fix, and honestly, it's a little quirk that I'm kind of fond of because it's stupid and I like it. But okay, let's go into the values that can be changed, or that are changing without messing too much stuff up. This is just basically the how to activate, how the conditions to activate it. This is just saying if it exists already, destroy it. If it doesn't, skip that thing. Saying this here is the velocity. It's saying the velocity should be in the facing direction of the person. Change that as you will. Don't know what you would change it to, but you can. This is the starting position, the eye position of the player. This here is the speed. That is the mass. 3 is speed, 4 is mass, 5 is the gravity, and 6 is delta time. I would not recommend changing 6 unless you know what you're doing. 7 is the time of flight, that's important. 8 is just the gravity. I need a, that needs to be a something different. But no, that's fine. Never mind, I'm just an idiot. That's to create the effect. That's set the effect to a certain value at a variable at an index. This is the third code to start the flight. This is the second code to start the flight. It should be an add. Instead of multiply, it should be an add. It is an add. Never mind. I'm just retarded. It's an add the original value by the multiplier of all this. And it works. I mean, I don't know why some problems will occur, but then my guess was wrong. Whatever. But yes, basic. So what can, this is the one is the velocity. P2 is the starting position. P3 is the speed, P4 is the mass, P5 is the gravity, P6 is delta time, mess with it as you will, if you know what you're doing. P7 is the flight time, starts at 0. P8 is the gravity. There's some others you can have, I'll link it in the description to Bruby's channel where I got all this code from, as well as the code for this. Set position variable, that's all example. That's just state. These two are the flight to start the process of it flying. This here is the how you say, this is just the how it flies. Sorry for that little pause, but this is just how I calculate the flight path. Look at Bruby's channel, he explains it better. Whatever. Such says your own thing. It basically chooses how it updates its position. Basically, if you don't, basically, it makes the position more accurate to the actual flight of a ball because it's at 0.06 whatever. What's the important part is the bounce. These are okay. First thing to note, but base Y, base X, and base Z. Top one is negative, bottom one is positive. Top one is negative, positive, negative, positive, etc. This is for floor, roof, walls, whatever. This is base just means by itself. The Y value by itself, the X value by itself. Due to that, with the Y and X being like that, it's a flaw. That is technically a flaw with the Y and X because it shouldn't need that, because if it's thing, it should always change. It's just my bad coding. I'll admit that. There's probably a reason why it should be like another way. I don't know what that way is, but it should be. But base basically means that value by itself will do, like, basically if it only interacts with Y, if it only interacts with X, if it only interacts with Z axis, that kind of stuff. I'm gonna go to this value. This is for the values when it interacts with a wall that is on both axes, because that's just how it is. It has 8 points of interactions. Basically, the board does. It has 8 plus 2, I guess is a way to put it. It should technically have more, like X and Y and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not gonna do that because no way. But yeah, X, Y, whatever. There's a lot of code that is missing, but it's just how it is. Okay, so what these are? These here are all the codes, how I calculate the direction of the bounce. All these codes, even the base, have a multiply of the actual velocity times a vector of a percent. Or multiply by a vector of a percent, basically. Basically, because it's less than 1 and it's a multiplier, I'm time doing percent. And I'm just, for this one, I'm saying, because it's bouncing off a wall, and because it's bouncing off a wall that isn't just 1, I have to do flip X and Y velocities just so it would work. That's how I did it, at least. It might be a better way, but this is how I did it. I flipped X and Z, sorry. The X and Z, I flipped the X and Z components. As you can see here, the X component is a multiply. The P1 is multiplied. The Z component of the velocity by a negative 87. And for the Y, it's a negative, it's a 1 because the Y stays the same. And for an X, it is a negative 0.87. That means there's a 13% drop in speed on the X and Z axis. That's what that is. Those 0.87s are just basically how much percent of the speed I want to keep. 87% is how much I want to keep. The negatives is to make it work and bounce off in the right direction. That's that. That's all that is just how I have coded the bounce for the right directions on a value that isn't just a base X, Y, and Z. I'm going to further this because there are some problems that I'll bring up later, but basically what you need to know is those are percentage values of how much speed you want to keep. When it bounces, it loses 13% and it retains 87% of its Z and X speed. That's all that is. It's the same with all the rest as well. Here, it's positive due to the fact that it's going from the values don't need to change into a negative because it goes from a positive axis to a positive axis. Like it goes from positive Z to positive X, and X goes from positive X to positive Z. All that kind of stuff, just how it is. This is just basically determining if there's a wall on the Z axis. How it is, just how I have coded it. This is for dodgeball hits player. If you want to do this, this is basically just how I determined if the dodgeball hit the player, do this. This is not important. I don't. What it is kind of is just to maybe if I want to make the projectile disappear if it hits an object. then it'll be like that. But yeah, that's basically it. That's the hard update. Look at that if you want, but that's basically it. Change the 0.87, 0.85, all that kind of stuff to change the value of the bounce. The negatives are the flips. The flight path is just how it calculates. Let's look at that if you wish. You know what all these do. Okay, so let's now list the flaws with my programming. This. See how it bounces to the left even though I'm looking kind of straight at the wall and it should kind of come back to me? Yeah, that's a flaw in my coding. I don't know exactly what it is. I'm going to look at it later, but that's a little bit of my own problem. Like, if I do this, it'll bounce towards the right now. Do this, it'll bounce to the left, but it never bounces back at me, even though I'm looking straight at the wall. With this one, it's still it's a very steep, like, that one bounces back. It shouldn't, but it does bounce back. It's due to how I coded it and how things work. It's a fault in my coding. I need to find that fault and I will, but I don't know what the fault is, so that'll probably take me a good week of digging. Hopefully less, but probably a good week. So that's fault number 1. Fault number 2, which I already mentioned, is that when I initiate the projectile for the first time, it will drop at my feet. Which is just due to the fact that I made a mistake in my coding. Like, it actually bounces off that. It doesn't bounce off cars though, due to ray projectiles not liking certain props. It's just how it'll be. It's sad, but it's how it will be. What? That was... Oh my god, There you go, there's another flaw that I just found. Sorry for the skip here. That's it. In the description there'll be a link to the code. Hopefully I have fixed the Y thing where it just like phases through and actually bounces off now. Oh, oops. I don't want to die. But hopefully I fixed the Y problem by the time the code's up and the video's up. Probably not. But yeah, code will be in the share code will be in the description. The link to Brooby's channel will also be in the description. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this was helpful. Bye.